people look at this video and say, well, how can there be a God if I'm like this? And to me, that shows where your mindset is and how negative it is. You have to look at perspective, okay, I already have it. There's nothing I can do. What can I do with it?
Jamey Carrington, welcome to the See-Through podcast, man.
Thanks for having me.
This is your first podcast appearance ever, right?
Yep, first time.
That's awesome. You're also my youngest male guest that I've ever had.
Not the youngest overall, though. I'm still really disappointed about that.
You're not the youngest. You're not the youngest. Madeline Connor was my youngest guest. But hey, man, a second's not too bad. First dude's pretty cool. First youngest guy, I guess. But yeah, first podcast. So, you may be disappointed by not being the youngest, but I'm stoked that I'm your first podcast. That's cool.
I mean, I hope it's not the last.
When you blow up and, you're like, I remember my first podcast appearance.
Yeah, that's what I'll have to tell Joe Rogan that, hopefully, if I ever go on there.
Yeah. Exactly, dude. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on and talking to me. This conversation is going to feel similar and familiar, but maybe a little bit strange because podcasting is fun for me because I get to have deep conversations. And it almost gives me permission to have deep conversations with people I just met.
Yeah. So,
yeah, because if I just met you, I wouldn't be asking you the questions that I'm going to be asking you.
I'd be like, get away from me.
Yeah, you'd be like, who are you? And why are you talking to me and asking me these deep questions?
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, first episode. So I think, let's just keep it simple, man. It's let's start with an introduction. I'd like for you to introduce yourself to everyone listening.
Okay. So, hi, my name is Jamey. I was born with spinal muscular atrophy, and basically what that entails is my muscles actually deteriorate over time, and I don't absorb nutrients like your body might or somebody else's, which causes me to have really weak muscles. So I've been in a wheelchair pretty much my whole life. Pretty good driver. But there's no mental part of it at all. It's just all physical, and yeah, that's basically what SMA entails.
So to specify there's no mental aspects, is that something that people get confused sometimes? Is sometimes people think that there's like mental qualities to it?
Yeah, I've been told some pretty wild things. I remember like my neighbor didn't even know I could talk for like the longest time. He was like, I was with my dad and I was like, Dad, I'm hungry. And he was like, right, I didn't even know he can talk. I was like super confused. And that's when my dad did tell me like, some people don't know like you're able to speak, And you wouldn't believe, like, I understand it, like, I get it, sometimes it's not easy to tell your mind just goes straight away to thinking that there is something mentally different with this person, that's really specifically, but, it happens in school, it happens out in public, so I get that a lot.
Yeah, I think that's something that even I've done this podcast for years now, and I actually never put the two together, which is kind of bad, kind of sad for me to admit, but that would be an issue where someone who's a wheelchair user and you have like muscular dystrophy, a form of it, right? Or atrophy is what it's called?
Yeah, it's atrophy.
So what it means is like you're a wheelchair user and you kind of have weaker muscles, so it changes your appearance. So visibly to others, they see you in a wheelchair and they don't know, quite what to think, basically, is what I'm hearing.
Right. And uh, it wasn't like always like that from like a peer perspective. So like, I go to high school, right? I actually go to high school with my dad. My dad is my parapro. So he goes to school with me and makes sure I have what I need. He takes my notes for me, lets me use the bathroom, all that stuff that I need, which is really great. I'm thankful to have him because the alternative would be like a 95-year-old lady named Janice, you know what I mean? There's no really alternatives where I'm at. I live in Georgia, a small town in Georgia, actually. So, my dad was like the only person that could come to school with me, and he actually quit his job to do that, to actually go to school with me.
So that means he's in class with you?
Yeah, he goes to class with me.
And you are how old? How old are you?
17.
You're 17, and so you're in high school?
Yeah, I am a junior this year.
Junior, okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
So you can imagine how fun that is. Your dad going to school with you and all that.
Yeah, how is that for you? Having your dad around. I'm sure it's comforting, but also maybe strange as well. Because that would be weird if I putting myself in your shoes if my dad was around me when I was in 11th grade.
It is exactly how you think it would be. And it's like, I mean, he's gonna watch this, so it's like, I'm kind of choosing my words very carefully here. But, you can't obviously, like, I guess act as rowdy as a normal teenager.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like you can't. It feels weird too. But
yeah, you can't whistle at a lady.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And some kids are also like intimidated by it because my dad's like 6'4", so and it's not like a full beard, so it's like obviously most kids are going to be like afraid to even approach you, which it was already tough to begin with, but now you have like this giant next to you, so now it's even like more intimidating, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So as your dad, how long has he been going to school with you?
Ever since like 5th grade.
5th grade, okay.
Yeah.
So you must be very close with your dad.
I am. We actually spend more time together than like any father and son does, because, he's my caregiver. My mom, she works 2 jobs. She's a nurse, actually. She works at 2 hospitals.
Wow.
But, yeah, me and my dad, we do a lot together, including high school. So.
Do you think it's going to be strange at all whenever you graduate? Not going to school. Like, do you think like spending more time apart from each other is going to feel natural, or do you think it's going to, or do you think you'll still continue to be together as much as you are now?
Well, we've kind of made the deal that like when I graduate, like you're not coming to college with me. Like that was the deal we made. And he's fine with it. He's like, I don't even want to go to begin with, honestly. Like he is not like, he has to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning. He has to go to school and take notes. That's not his favorite. So I get it. But so we're both pretty mutual on that. But he grew up with a lot of these kids as much as I did.
Oh yeah.
Like it feels kind of weird because like he's made this kind of group of like not friends, 'cause that would be weird, but like he knows these kids and they know him. So it's basically him graduating high school a second time.
Wow. Yeah, he literally grew up with people.
Yeah.
With your classmates. So it sounds like, you mentioned he has to take notes. So it sounds like you don't have much mobility.
No, I don't. I mean, if I wanted to, like I can use my phone I've tried typing notes on my phone, but I can't keep up with the
Yeah.
teacher, and it's hard. Um, physical note taking is the best way, just pen and paper for me, because it's really nice because I just get to sit and listen and absorb, and just fully focus on the lesson, while my dad is fully focused on note taking. He doesn't really have to pay attention, while most kids, they have to put 50% on focusing on the lesson and 50% taking notes. So that's kind of helpful in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you definitely absorb more information by like paying attention. It's kind of strange how school expects you to take notes and learn at the same time.
I'm not a big fan of the school system. It's probably my least favorite thing.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Do you have any plans for, further education, college or anything like that?
I've talked about this with my buddies, and I'm like, when people are disabled, like in a wheelchair, you kind of think they're super smart. For some reason, that's the norm.
Like Stephen Hawking kind of thing?
This Charles Xavier, this Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly it with me. I'm not, sounds bad, but I'm not, crazy smart. I have to try pretty hard to keep up my grades. I make all A's, but I have to work pretty hard. It's not just I know.
Well, all A's, man. You can't say you're not smart if you make all A's, man.
I don't think it's that hard if you, actually put work into it. But
results are what matter,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, and I'm but I've tried, so I'm limited into what I can do, obviously. And I've tried coding 3 times now. I've tried coding, and it just doesn't appeal to me. So I'm well, I don't want to code. I don't want to develop stuff.
I don't know how anyone wants to do that.
There's people, trust me, there's people.
I know a few of them. I've interviewed some coders. But yeah, it's not for me either, just staring at numbers on a screen,
It's I didn't expect to start doing it and be this is the greatest thing ever. But it was pretty boring, I'm not going to lie. And then, what are my other options? Writing, I've tried that. I fully ditched that idea after I lost the writing competition at my school. I said, screw that. So I'm not writing ever again.
Well, who cares about that competition? If you like writing, then you should write.
I kept saying, because I never got to read the first place, winner for one. I was I guarantee my stories have been 10 times better. I still want to read that story to this day.
Yeah, but you got to think about how you'll progress later on, if you keep writing.
I mean, yeah.
Every famous author, their first piece wasn't always a winner. It's like the classic, Michael Jordan got cut from his team, in high school.
Right.
It's what if he was I quit forever, then we wouldn't have got Michael Jordan's career,
Right.
So
yeah.
you should relax a little bit on your sore loserness.
Yeah, I know, I should. And so now I'm just really focused on my YouTube, my content creation.
Classic young person. Oh, I'm going to be a content creator.
Everybody wants to be a YouTuber, but I would like it to lead me down a road of doing motivational content.
Yeah.
Motivational speaking. Actually going to places and doing motivational speaking. And I don't think you can really get a degree for that. There's not really a degree that says I'm motivational. So I think you just kind of gotta.
Well, look, I'll tell you this. You don't necessarily need a college degree.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't have a college degree and she does better than I do, so it's there's, different skill sets. It's really just skill sets. So if you want to be a motivational speaker, then yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you don't need a degree for that. You just go out and start speaking, especially with YouTube, and these platforms online, you can, there's no barrier to have an audience, you just start posting.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And yeah, so I respect that. You don't you don't have to have like a college education. But yeah, I think in terms of positivity, you mentioned, being like a motivational speaker. Your content, which is how I found you, is you're a content creator. So you're on YouTube, you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, and you have you do motivational kind of little short clips.
Yeah.
And you do longer form too.
Yeah, I do longer form.
But yeah, you have such a positive attitude, and I was gonna pick your brain about that. I think that's what interests me. I think, because I think generally people, with or without a disability, right? They have an angel and a devil on their shoulder, that kind of like thing going on. And I know people who like to listen to that devil, and I know people who like to listen to that angel on their shoulder. And sometimes I listen to both, and I just wanted to ask you, like, it seems like you've picked the angel on your shoulder. Is that hard? And was that a natural thing, a natural direction? And why did you pick the positive side versus a negative side? Because, just being honest, like you have a disability that sounds like it makes life more difficult than the average person's life. So it's like, how does one stay positive when faced with, your disability?
Yeah. There's this hole that comes along with any disability. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what do you have? I know you have something with blindness, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa. And what it means is like my retinal cells are dying, and when they die, they don't replenish. So I'm slowly losing my eyesight, and it starts with the peripheral vision, and then it kind of goes towards the center, kind of think like tunnel vision type of thing. And it also affects my eye's ability to kind of adjust in dark scenarios, in low light situations.
Gotcha.
And it causes legal blindness on average by the age of 40, and I'm 33. So I'm headed towards legal blindness. My mom has the same condition, and she has around 5 degrees of vision, so just a little sliver of vision in the center. Yeah. So I started this podcast because I wanted to kind of know from others how to adapt, not only physically, but mentally.
Yeah.
Because I kind of can see something coming up for me. So I'm basically just trying to absorb from others, how to basically just get free advice from people who are living with similar conditions or, disabilities, just to kind of pep me up and give me a pep talk and, help me kind of be the best version of myself and not to feel defeated, by my potential future of blindness, that kind of thing. So I think that's why your story and your whole energy fascinates me, because, you're very positive, and I just think it's very cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, first let me say, you do not look 33 whatsoever. I would say like along lines of 22, 23. But,
okay. Hey, that's good.
Yeah, it is good. So, but yeah, so like I was saying before, you would know that there's this hole that comes with any disability. And if you get too focused on that hole and you fall down that hole, it is a very hard hole to climb out of. And you can just be stuck in a cycle of negativity and depression if you look at things the wrong way. which is, why did this happen to me? Why am I like this? I shouldn't be like this. And everything that comes along with that. So, I was raised in a household where we looked at this as a positive thing. You know, we looked at this as, this is a gift from God, which I didn't see it that way for a long time. This is something that you can use to inspire others. And so I was like, okay, like, I don't really see how it's a gift or anything, but sure, I'll roll with it. And then, you know, as time went on, I started to see how much how good I actually did impacted people's lives just by being out in public and smiling and having a good time. Like, I would get people that come up to me and say, hey, like, I just wanted to thank you, like, you brightened up my day. And I was like, well, I don't even know what I did. So I started to look at my disputes like, what if I can motivate people to live their lives to the fullest no matter what? What if I can inspire people to be happy with what they have? You know, what if I can just have this ripple effect of positivity into the world? Because I've got that gift and that I want to make the most of it. Like, I genuinely believe that's what I'm here to do. You know what I mean? So I just want to focus on the positivity because if you don't, like, you'll just get depressed, man. Like, it's hard to crawl out of that cycle of negativity because it's so easy. You have like 100 reasons to not get out of bed in the morning when you have a severe physical disability. You know, there's 100 reasons, but you have to find that one reason to get up, to go out, and to live your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to actively try. You know,
you
have to put effort towards something. You have to work hard at existing, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I meditate every single day. I do gratitude meditation. I do loving meditation and just normal relaxation meditation. You know, I'm very into Christianity. And I was also a big fan of, like, the philosophy of Stoicism. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I follow the Daily Stoic.
Yeah, me too. And I found that to be really helpful. You know, knowing what you can and can't control. Because I can't control my disability. Like, but I can certainly control how I respond to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It kind of reminds me of, it's one of my favorite quotes, and it's kind of a religious one, you know, speaking of Christianity. Let me pull it up. I have this long list, by the way, on my desktop. I have a sticky note full of, it's full of quotes that I like. Yeah, here it is. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Wow. Yeah. Who said that?
I don't know who said it. It's part of, like, recovery meetings, like AA meetings. I don't have addiction issue, but I know people who do.
Yeah.
And I know that quote means a lot to them because, you know, when you're going through recovery, you know, you kind of have to make peace with your past, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it carries over for me too, because it's like, you know, with vision loss, I can't change that. It's how I was genetically coded. So I have to accept that I can't change that, you know. And you and the wisdom to know the difference is kind of like what you're saying, is like, you got to know what you're in control of and what you're not in control over, you know.
Yeah.
And then that will kind of steer you, you know.
Yeah. So, like, from my understanding, like, you're gonna get worse with your vision over time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just going to get, it's degenerative. So it's nothing but down from here, man.
Yeah, so so like problem about this is like one of my deepest fears is like from 15, 20 years from now, I don't even know if I'd be able to speak. You know what I mean? Like I'm not able to do the things I was able to do 5 years ago. I remember playing one of my Xbox games. I think it was Red Dead Redemption 2. But I was playing it with a controller, like a physical controller, and I just couldn't do it the same way I used to. And I remember like I almost started to cry because that was so like upsetting that I couldn't do something that was easy for me just a few months ago. And now I play video games with my mouth actually because it's a whole lot easier. But it's scary to know that you're gonna lose something and there's nothing you can do about it. But I mean, looking at it in a negative light, it's not gonna help you at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I also do think there's some power in letting like anger out or processing anger and grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes negatively naturally comes out in those moments of grief, or anger naturally comes out in those moments of grief.
It does.
But you're going to have these swells. And I think my whole thing is like, you can't choose to stay there though. Some people make the choice to stay in those moods and those moments versus accept that, hey, this is all part of the human condition. You're going to have ebb and flow, and you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days.
Right.
And if you're not actively trying to have good days, then you're not going to have good days.
Right, but it's more comfortable to not have good days. It's comfortable
Because it's more familiar.
It's more familiar, and it's more comfortable to feel like there's nothing I can do. Why should I even try? That's a comfortable mindset. So you really have to get out of your comfort zone on a daily basis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk to you about, you said your faith is a huge part of your kind of, would you say it's like your foundation for your positive thinking?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think God gave me this disability so I can reach others more than somebody without it can. I think it's kind of funny because where people lose faith in God, I grow the strongest. Like, people look at disability and say, well, how can there be a God if I'm like this? And to me, that shows where your mindset is and how negative it is. I don't think you're looking at it the right way if you see things that way as to why I have this. I think you have to look at perspective, okay, I already have it. There's nothing I can do. What can I do with it? And I think I'm just meant to do good with it. And I think people that are disabled are, super special, super talented, because even though they have a small set of doors that are open to them, rather than someone who's not disabled, their doors are way bigger than someone else that's not disabled. They have less options, but the options that they do have are super huge. You know what I mean? Like, they can do incredible things. And there's not many people saying that to fellow disabled people online. Like, there's not much support out there in the disabled community. And You know, I was raised to believe that. I was raised Christian, and you know, all I want to do is show my faith in God through my living in a positive light.
I think that's powerful what you just said, but I've interviewed a guy. I don't know if you're familiar with him. His name is Joe Such.
No.
He's a YouTuber as well, and he has this super rare condition where his muscles turn to bone. And he's basically the opposite of you. You know, going back to the angel or devil on the shoulder.
Uh-huh.
You know, he's atheist. You know, he's just kind of speaks from a place of facts. You know, what he sees is what he says, kind of thing.
We need to get him in here so I can rub off on him a little bit.
But I like Joe. I'm friends with Joe, and I've been on his podcast because I like to have people around me who have a variety of viewpoints.
Yeah, I think that's important too.
And I think when I hear Joe, sometimes I'm just like, honestly, I really appreciate your honesty, because you know there's no filter with him, and it's sometimes in this world it's like there's too many filters on everything, you know. And sometimes it's nice to have a friend who's just gonna like basically talk shit to you.
Yeah.
And then it's also nice to have friends like you who are like kind of remind you, hey, be positive, because you know there's really nothing you can do about it. And you know, basically, people like yourself and your messaging, it plants a seed in your mind,
Right.
and starts to make you think about how the things you should be grateful for in your own life, and et cetera. And I think, is that kind of what you mean when you say, you know, that's kind of your purpose, and that's the kind of the gift God gave you, is the ability to kind of, through your own perspectives and own messaging and just vibe and energy that you put out there, that to get people to start evaluating what they should be thankful for? Or do you think it goes deeper than that?
Well, I mean, you know, so I focus on like self-improvement from like a healthy perspective, because about 2 years ago during the Andrew Tate craze, I know you even made a video about it. I watched it and I liked it. I loved it. But I was a little tater tot myself, and it's kind of crazy to talk about it. I feel shameful almost.
Sometimes he makes sense, I'll be honest.
Sometimes, but it's like he says stuff that's so common. Like, I feel like it's so common sense. People are almost like too dumb to be like, well, this is the greatest thing somebody's ever said. Like, no, it's not. You knew it in the back of your mind. But it's like, I was a big fan. I wanted the cars. I wanted the money. I wanted to, quote unquote, escape the Matrix, right? And after like some time of it, I started questioning the whole thing, and like how kind of stupid it all was. Because first off, like, he's incredibly misogynistic. Like, that's, you know, that's a fact. And he also like got caught in that whole, I think he got arrested like again recently.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
And it was pretty rough. And then I finally saw the, where he made fun of, like, people parking in disabled spots. And that was, like, kind of the last straw. And I'm not a hater per se, but, like, I focus on self-improvement from a non-toxic perspective. So, getting back to what you asked me, I think it says more when a person with a severe physical disability says, life is good, life is valuable, you should enjoy it and improve your life to the best of your ability. Rather than someone saying the exact same thing, who has all the money in the world, who has all the cars in the world, who has everything they've ever wanted and is in perfectly good health. You know what I mean? I think it speaks more volumes when somebody who has a harder life is able to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like my favorite, you know, celebrities or, you know, are usually people who had some sort of struggle, you know, in
Yeah,
their come up. You know, they weren't, you know, they didn't have like family members in the industry. You know, they kind of grew up and made a name for themselves and were self-made kind of thing.
yeah,
Because it's like there's something about that. It's almost like, all right, I can relate to that because it's hard for me to relate to wealthy people. You know, like
right.
if people who were born into wealth, it's I almost feel like they're living on a different planet.
Yeah, and I mean, I get the thing that Andrew Tate wasn't, like, he grew up poor and he got what
Yeah,
he had, but, you know, pretty sure he got what he had through, like, a webcam business, like running webcam girls and
yeah.
stuff like that. And I was like, well,
He definitely made his millions of dollars in non ethical ways. Yeah,
yeah, it was pretty unethical. And I was like, you know, I, I think happiness is not about being happy with everything you've ever wanted. It's about being happy with what you already have. And he doesn't understand that because he puts all his self value into his cars, his house, his money, like all of that. You know what I
yeah. It's
mean?
very materialistic.
Right, very materialistic. And that stuff just doesn't last. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta put more value into those around you and what you already have and yourself and not these things that just don't mean anything, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Self improvement isn't to gain the approval of others; it's to gain the approval of yourself. Um,
Yeah.
so, like, yeah, definitely, like, try to make as much money as you can. Try to get in as best shape as possible. Whatever, you know, all those things. But it's like don't do it. Do it for yourself if that's what you want. Versus, I need to impress somebody. I need to impress everyone.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
that's like the biggest thing about the current way of self improvement is I have to show others how big and strong I am, you know what I mean? Like that's where it all lies. It's almost like there's a whole bunch of insecurity behind all of it. You know what I mean? I think there's some insecurity that lies when you have that mindset of I have to prove myself to others. You know?
yeah. So you're saying you've noticed a trend where physical strength is kind of intertwined into the self help space.
Yeah, I mean, just scroll through Instagram for like 20 minutes and you'll see like these people like flaunting their bodies. And I'm not saying don't take care of your body, but I think we should be a little less vain with it, a little less prideful with it, because I think people just put too much of their self worth into it. I think like I literally weigh 60 pounds, and I'm probably um in great mental state compared to some of the biggest bodybuilders in the world. You know what I mean? Like it's all about what you got in your head, not your muscles. So I mean, I just think people put too much emphasis on that.
Yeah, I feel you. I think, yeah, sometimes the physical strength, you know, has the positive benefits, you know, with, you know, in terms of like working out increases dopamine and all this type of things
Yeah,
that can help your mental. But yeah, I agree that there is too much kind of vanity. The vanity aspect of it is what's not good versus
right.
the actual physical benefits. You
Yeah.
know, I think most people, if I'm being honest, don't go to the gym for the mental health benefits. I think they go for the vanity.
I mean, that's good. You should be happy with your appearance,
Yeah.
but you know, you shouldn't have to feel like you need more muscles, more this, more that to feel comfortable with yourself. You know, you're not doing that out of love for yourself. You're doing it because you don't already love yourself. You know, you should already love yourself. You should look in the mirror and boom, love the person you see unconditionally.
So you think people go to the gym to get a physical appearance, and then once they attain that certain physical appearance that they have in their mind, that's when they're going to choose to love themselves? But they're at the moment they don't, but they're trying to. Is that what you're saying?
Not everybody, but there's a handful of people out there.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. So you're kind of the mindset that you have to be kind to yourself.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's kind of, that is straightforward. I know there's deeper layers to that. So let's dive into that. Like you said, living with a disability, it can close doors, but it can open doors.
Yeah.
What doors have you not opened yet that you want to open?
I mean, some doors are just locked. You know what I mean? Like, there are some things that, like, I remember as a kid, like, I would have these things that I wanted to do. Like, I mean, any kid, like, when you ask a kid what they want to do, like, they swap back and forth. You know what I mean? Like, they just go through stuff they want to do. And I remember, like, wanting to do these things that were unrealistic with my disability. And I realized I can't do everything. And, that takes time getting used to. I think there's also social doors that are blocked as well. You can't interact with people the same way an able-bodied person can, because these people won't look at you the same way. Like, when I meet somebody or when I talk to people at school, they don't really see me as the normal person that I am. Like, now that me and you were talking, you see I'm a normal guy. But I don't get that chance in a normal setting.
I mean, you're a little strange.
Well, yeah, I'm just 10. I mean, I've got a whole collection of Funko Pops, not in the camera view, just over here to the left. So yeah, I'm a little strange.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember I grew up with these kids, right? I grew up with them in school. And from first grade, it's like all the way to fifth, which is like primary elementary school, I would have kids that come up to me and be like, "Hey, Jamey, come play with us. Come do this." And they were all super nice. Like, I would leave class and they would be like, "Bye, Jamey." I would come in class and be like, "Hi, Jamey." And it was great. And then things started to change a little bit when you got into middle school, because then kids were like, they started to like dissociate themselves from you. They didn't really want you sitting at their table. They didn't really speak to you the same way they did anymore. But they would still be like, "Hey, Jamey, what's up?" You know what I mean? And then by the time we got to high school, things completely changed. Now I could go through the hall with somebody who I've known for years and I may have been close to for a long time when I was younger, and they won't look in my direction. They won't speak to me. And it's like really uncomfortable. And it's really uncomfortable, like, in school when you have to, like, pair up with people, like, in groups. Because sometimes, like, I literally have to be partners with my dad because I don't have a partner. And that's probably, like, one of the worst feelings you can possibly get in a social situation. And when you do get paired up with a group, they almost act like you're a kid, you know what I mean? And it's like, dude, like, I've known you for this long. You ain't gotta like put up this act like I know you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's not something people really understand what it's like being disabled and being in high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, as you were telling me that, I was just trying to process your story as you were telling me. Yeah, and high school kids or middle school kids, you know, they're very, no offense to you, but they're very immature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, maybe it's a popularity thing, you know, maybe it's like, I don't really know what it is. I almost think it's because we stopped being kids. We stopped looking at things from a kid's perspective because I have met way more kids that are accepting to me and open to me than teenagers. Because most of these kids, they don't even see this wheelchair. You know what I mean? They don't see that as an obstacle. They're just so kind and so sweet and so non-judgmental. And I think we just kind of lost that along the way.
So you think age changes things in terms of how it makes you people act differently because they're thinking about different things like social status or popularity.
Yeah.
Um,
Because, I mean, it's like, it's weird being friends with, you know, the only disabled guy in school. Like, I'm the only person in a wheelchair that goes to normal classes. So,
yeah.
you know,
Well, I'll
I
tell you
can,
this. I don't know if it'll make you feel any better, but you know, I had like best friends in 5th grade that, you know, or 4th grade that I would go to their house all the time, you know, sleepovers. And then middle school, every now and then I'd hang out with them. High school,
yeah.
it got to the point where, you know, we'd pass each other in the hallway and not say anything because I had new friends and then they had new friends. And then so I think some of that is natural. You know,
Yeah,
some of
it's
it is
definitely
just like
natural.
growing into different, you kind of find a new clique as you age. You kind of find, you know, I don't know how it happens. Sometimes it happens unnaturally too, but
Yeah, but like I have like at like fourth, fifth grade, I got my friend group, which consists of like 2 or 3 people, and that was my only friend group up until now. Like that's still my friend group. They're still my friends
yeah,
because it really allows you to see who's real and who's not. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's almost like a test in a way. Like
oh yeah.
now that I'm in 11th grade, I'm able to see who's a real friend to me and who's not, you know?
So you think people who are disabled need to have like a ride or die kind of
Oh, yeah.
friendship?
Yeah, well, you need that support. And especially if you go to school and you don't have that, like, that's tough. It's
I think
really
that's
tough.
what I think. I have a theory. I think that's what scares people away from befriending disabled people because they I think they feel like it has to be ride or die, you know, because like, or let's say
Yeah. Well, I'm not
let's say
asking. Go ahead, sorry.
like me and you met and we, you know, we were hanging out and we just weren't vibing, right?
Yeah.
And I decide, you know, I don't think I want to hang out with Jamey anymore. The
Yeah, he
fear
said,
become the fear becomes like the fear becomes, all right, is Jamey going to think that I'm not hanging out with him because, you know,
yeah.
he's disabled? You know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So sometimes people do the mental math and they just don't even put themselves in that position,
Right. Yeah. I
which isn't
mean,
fair. I'm not saying that's fair, but I'm just stating like a theory I have.
yeah. No, I think that's a fair theory. I think people are just afraid. They don't know what to expect, which is good to make
They
friends with.
assume that you're really fragile and that, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think they see much emotional maturity there. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? even though, like, I'm probably one of the most emotionally mature people because I have to be. I have to be emotionally mature. But people are just afraid and, like, that not even with friends, like trying to talk to girls, that's tough too.
Yeah, how's life with how's the lady life?
Not good. It's like, well, let's not forget I go to school with my dad. So,
Yeah.
and it's tough. For a while I thought, like, should I not approach somebody? Because the last time I did, I think I scared that person because they didn't know how to say no, which I can imagine can be very scary because I'm disabled. And I felt bad for wanting to approach someone and tell them that I like them because I felt wrong to put them in that position. Which I now understand, like, I deserve to have a crush on someone if I want to, and I deserve to be able to tell them
Oh,
that.
dude, you gotta have crushes, dude, especially in high school.
I felt bad to put some girl in that position, and they go to their parents and are like, oh my gosh, this disabled guy just asked me out, I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? Like, that I can imagine that's very tough.
Well, you don't just come out of the blue and just ask them out, do
I
you?
know. I don't just jump out of the bushes and say, I got you. But
Yeah.
I'll share a fun little anecdote.
Yeah,
So
let's hear.
this was last year, and I got really close to this girl. And we were talking every day in class, a lot like friends. And we were talking a lot, we were laughing a lot. Things were going great. And after school, I would always come home and I would call my buddy, my friend, and I would tell him, I would tell him every little detail of what happened. I would hype it up so much. Even if she, like, did the smallest thing, I'd be like, bro, this is it. I found the one. And, and we would hype ourselves up about that so much. And he would hype me up, too. He was a good friend about it. And,
That's how it's supposed to be, man. I
right.
remember doing that too.
And,
Yeah.
my friend's a good-looking guy, too. He's like, he goes to the gym. He's like a big guy. And this girl was like, she was in the top 5 of the school, you know what I mean? Like, she was up there. And everybody
Okay.
knew it. So, I was like, I finally got this chance. I'm going to ask her out soon. So, we're still talking, and time gets closer for me to ask her out.
So you're getting hints that you think she may be interested. So you're kind of plotting your move. You're like, I want to ask her
I
out.
think it's kind of time. So
And so
I'm ready.
time has passed, time has moved, and now you're like, all right, now's the time.
We started at like the beginning of the year, and now we're getting
Yeah.
close to summer break. So
Okay.
it's just about time.
Yeah, that's a good amount of time. Yeah.
I'm probably like a week away from asking her out. And this one night, I get a call from that same friend who would hype me up about me asking her out. And he calls me, and he's in the car, and he goes, hey man, like, I just wanted to tell you something. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I just want you to, like, prepare yourself. And I was like, okay, let me hear it. And he goes, what's her name? Like, is flirting with me. Like, she got my DMs. And I was like, okay, thanks for letting me know. And that was, like, my first ever, like, heartbreak. Like, I was pretty upset about that. Because what came along with that was, I'm disabled, he's not. That was the problem here. Like, goes to the gym, he works out, he's tall. Like, even though we're super similar, like we are almost identical in personality, we're just, I'm disabled and he's not. So that's what it came down to. And as terrible as it was for me, I'm so glad it happened because it happened, I'm able to feel comfortable with myself and be like, well, some people just don't want to date somebody that's disabled, and that's okay. Some people aren't made to handle that responsibility, which is fine. Like I don't care, because that's a big responsibility dating someone that's disabled, because you have to look out for them, you have to help them in things that they need. And you know, if she wasn't up for that, then I didn't need to date her in the first place. So I'm glad it went down the way it did.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a heartbreak.
Right. I mean, you got to learn. You know, it's
heartbreak teaches you about so much.
Yeah, and it sucked,
but I feel you on that. It seems like you had experienced heartbreak, but there was like this additional layer added to it.
You're right, because like I felt self-conscious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I stopped, because like when you're talking with a girl, you have that extra boost of confidence. But when all that stops, it just kind of plummets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you bounce back though, and I think that's the power of heartbreak is you feel low and you feel like, oh, I'm never going to love again. Yeah. You know, and then all of a sudden you find yourself another day being like, oh, there's that feeling. Yeah. And then you get that pep back in your step, and it teaches you about yourself too, because it teaches you about, you know, what didn't work. You know, what could you have done differently? What could they have done differently? Yeah. You know, and it just helps you kind of have more data to pull from on what to kind of, that to me, life is like, comes with age, you know, you have more data to pull from, you know? Yeah. It's like, you know, I've been in relationships that lasted years, you know, that failed. And, you know, that's very hard to process, but then you kind of come out of that with this like ultra clear mind. And you're like, you kind of are like, in retrospect, you're like, yeah, when you break up, you're like, how did this happen? What went wrong? And then in retrospect, you're like, yeah, I see what happened. Yeah, I remember that's probably not the best thing. And this wasn't that healthy, you know, that kind of thing. But it just comes with time, you know. And,
I still don't know. I still don't know if she was flirting with me or not. I don't know. You know, that's still something I struggle with. I struggle with separating flirting versus just being kind. Like, so like when somebody's kind to me, because not many people are. So like when an attractive young girl comes along and does something nice for me,
I think that's a common problem with men.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Is that, oh, this girl was nice to me, she must want, you know, to date me, you know, that kind of thing.
So I think that happens. Your heart's telling you one thing, your brain's trying to tell you another. It's just battle. And, you know, I think from that lesson, I've tried to be more slow and be like, okay, she's just being nice for right now. But that's immediately what I've trained my brain to do.
Well, it also you know what it does is it teaches you that you can take some hits, you know? And I'm sure that, you know, growing up with SMA, whether you like it or not, you're probably comfortable taking some hits. You know, life has thrown some curveballs at you and you've taken some hits, and you're probably, you know, you're 17 years old, but you're probably way more wise than a typical 17-year-old. Yeah. Which is probably why you want to speak positively and, you know, do motivational speaking.
Yeah.
So how does one like, so let's say, you know, going back to your story about this girl, DMing your friend, I guess let me ask this question because my curiosity is, did they ever date or anything like that?
No, out of respect, my friend said, like, my friend actually didn't even message her back. Like, he just,
Ah,
you know, it was, because he was like, I didn't know what I would have done if I would have done that. Like, I don't know how our friendship would have been.
all right. That's good guy code.
Shout out to him for that, you know?
Yeah. No, that's rare. That's rare. So
Yeah.
yeah, shout out to him. That's a good move. But yeah, like, so let's go back to that. So like, self-esteem can take a hit, you know? I mean, it happens to
Yeah.
everyone. You know, people get cheated on, you know, people are trying to date a girl and then they end up dating someone else, or, you know, it happens to everyone. How do you not let it affect your self-esteem? How do you not take it personally? Because I think some people take it personally. You know, you mentioned that you kind of attach the reason to it being your disability, but
Yeah.
you're not necessarily, that might not be the case, you know? I'm sure it's probably part of the equation, but it's not the total equation, you know? So how do you kind of keep it from affecting your self-esteem, you know?
I try to look at things from their perspective, like, see how they would have viewed things. Because I understand how uncomfortable that can be sometimes. Like, I'm sure it's hard for girls to put down guys that are nice, even though they're not attracted to them. And I can only imagine how much harder that is when they're disabled. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I totally get that. Um, so like I'm not bitter about it at all. I just see it as she didn't like me. That's fine. Um, you know, because if you get stuck on that cycle of negativity like we talked about earlier, it gets rough. Um, so I just try to look at it from she didn't like me and it just wasn't meant to be, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think any girl in high school is going to be meant for me because that maturity probably just isn't there yet. Like, I think they have to be at a certain point in their emotional maturity where they can handle a partner that is disabled and can't do a lot of things on their own, you know what I mean? I don't think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of high school girls are there yet.
Yeah, I hear you. I think you're right. Unfortunately,
Which
I
is
think
hard,
just
yeah, it
being,
was hard for me to accept because, you know, like I want
because
to,
you're in high school.
yeah, I'm in high school,
And
I want to
yeah,
experience
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I want that experience, and it's like, it's also hard because, like, I'm not going to say it, like, I think I'm an attractive young disabled man. So props to me for that. But I, I also get I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm a very acquired taste, so to speak. So I've put so much like self-worth into myself and my habits and what I do, which is, you know, I meditate every day. I read my Bible for 15 minutes a day. I try to get my work done before I relax for the day. Um, you know, I try to add things to my life that make me more valuable to someone else. I'm not doing that just for someone else. You know, I'm doing it for me too. But, you know, I think it was important for me to put something valuable in my life. You know, because if I was just to sit around, do nothing, play video games all day, like, do absolutely nothing, like, why would a girl want to invest her valuable time like that taking care of me if I'm not doing anything good and productive. And so that's kind of like that saying, don't chase butterflies, instead build a garden and the butterflies will come. That type of thinking.
Yeah,
That's what I've got to put on.
Yeah, I think, some people feel like they're entitled, they feel entitled to romantic companionship or whatever, but no one's entitled to anyone else's time.
Right.
And again, it's going back to having control over what you can actually control. And you can only really control yourself and your actions.
Yeah.
You can't control how others perceive you, you can't control if someone's attracted to you. You can't control these certain things. You can only try to be the best version of yourself. And in doing so, that's usually when people show up, and I think in terms of self-worth, it's so important to hear you talk about all this stuff, because it's like, for the self-worth of it, you have to kind of give yourself that self-worth, because if you wait for others to give it to you, you're kind of limiting, you're going to limit your mood, basically. Oh, that girl didn't like me, so now I'm going to feel bad about myself. That person didn't talk to me in the hallway. You start to blame yourself, when in reality, that's their own shit that they're going through.
Right.
It could be their immaturity. It could be just their age and phase they are in their life. Who knows? So, I think sometimes we fill in the gap, like, oh, that guy didn't talk to me, or that girl didn't like me. It must be because of this, this, and this. Sometimes we don't even actually know the reasons why. We just kind of make them up in our mind. And usually it's not nice to ourselves, the reasons we come up with. Usually the fill in the gap or fill in the blank kind of reasons are what we come up in our own mind. They're not even, it's not like you asked that girl you had a crush on and she told you that.
Yeah.
You assumed that,
Right.
And so who knows, man? I'm just saying, like, it's hard not to do. I do the same thing, but like sometimes we just kind of assume things without any evidence.
Yeah, and then you can go down this like huge rabbit hole. Yeah.
But everyone does it. I do it.
Right.
I'm terrible at it. My inner voice is so mean, dude. My inner voice is so mean.
You should work on that.
Oh, dude, I work hard. Why do you think I have a long list of quotes? Why do you think I do a podcast? Why do you think I went to therapy for like a year?
Wow.
I'm constantly trying to improve myself.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
And it's constant work, and sometimes I get annoyed. Sometimes I want to turn that voice off and just be like, can we turn the introspection off for a bit?
Yeah.
Because I'm a very introspective person.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about why I feel a certain way, why I thought a certain way. Why did I do this? Why did I do that? Why didn't I do that? Why did I say that? Why did that make me feel that way? So I'm constantly analyzing everything. I'm analyzing myself. I'm analyzing those around me to make sure that I'm, that they're okay with what I'm saying and how I'm acting. I'm constantly reading people and reading myself. And I think it kind of makes me, not to toot my own horn, I definitely have a lot that I could improve upon, but I think it makes me curious, a good interviewer. And
yeah, I mean, I think your own mind can be like the crappiest friend you've ever had. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
kind of how I like to look at it. And it's like your mind can like even if you say jokes about yourself, like eventually you'll start to believe it. Which is like I try to be careful and like, because I used to joke about my body a lot actually. I used to talk about how like I look like an alien. I used to joke about that, and it's like eventually I felt like I started to believe that. So like I try to stay away from feeding into the things that my brain is telling me, which is super important, you know, and you understand that obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I think our inner dialogues impact us more than we give it credit for. You
Yeah.
know.
Subconsciously, they're working all the time behind the scenes.
Well, it's kind of like for example, Jim Carrey, the actor.
Yeah.
Before he made it in Hollywood, he wrote himself a check for like $10 million, and he left the date empty or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And he told himself like, eventually I'll be able to cash this check. And then he kind of like, it was all about like him kind of planting seeds of encouragement, confidence.
Yeah.
Basically saying I am going to do this. Oh yeah, I was going to bring up one more thing. I was watching some of your content.
Oh no.
And you used the word cripple, and I wanted to ask you about that.
So, hang on, what video was this?
Yeah, I had to ask you about it because I know some people say that word is like, a no-go. Do I get to use that word? Am I okay to ask that?
Look, I don't care if you say it at all. All my friends say it. We joke about it. I don't care. I mean, I think you gotta laugh at yourself every once in a while, because if you don't, you're just like a stick in the mud, you know? So me calling myself a cripple, like, I don't care, you know? I think it's hilarious.
So you use that word as like almost like a self-deprecation kind of thing, or is it more of like a...
I mean...
I'm trying to understand, like, why...
It's almost like a way of coping in a way.
Okay.
I think you have to laugh at your disability every once in a while. Because if you don't, you're just like so serious all the time. So like me complaining about my crippled legs and how they suck, like isn't me dissing on myself per se. It's me being comfortable with myself. And I'm just, I know some people don't like that, which is fine, but it is a fun word to me. I think it's almost therapeutic in a way, which can sound bad.
I get it. It's almost like you said, you're just being honest with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I like to joke around a lot with my disability, and I'll joke around to the point where, like, sometimes when we're in the mall, and like, there's a huge escalator going down, I'm like, hey, Mom, do you think I would survive if I plummeted down that? And she gets on to me for saying things like that. But, I think it's important to, like, laugh about stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to calling yourself an alien, have you ever dressed up as an alien for Halloween?
No, but we had this crazy idea. My mom hated it. Me and my dad loved it. So, have you ever been on like a Halloween walk through a haunted house type of thing?
Yeah.
So we wanted to do our own version, but we wanted to do like a hillbilly one. And I could be like in a little wagon as like a little product of incest. And so what we would do is my dad would pretend he was going to butcher the people that would come in and feed them to me. And we would have like fake guts that I'd be eating and stuff. And I thought it was like the greatest idea ever. My mom was like, I hate that you're even talking about that. Please don't bring that up. And I was like, but it's funny. And she hated it. So, but that was the closest thing we've ever done to something like that.
Okay. Yeah, so you have a dark sense of humor.
I do, yeah. I haven't let it show much this podcast because I didn't know how appropriate it would be, but here we are.
I love dark sense of humor. I have a dark sense of humor myself. And I think that people who are have had struggles,
yeah,
tend to have a dark sense of humor.
Yeah, totally.
Because they have something to kind of pull from, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them a sense of humor.
Right.
Because if you don't find the humor in it, you're kind of on a sinking ship, you know.
Yeah. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. Yeah.
When you face struggles, you're kind of forced to kind of find a humor in things.
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of comes with the territory. I think that's why most comedians have like troubled childhoods or, you know, that kind of thing. You know,
Yeah,
it's very rare where someone comes from like a world of privilege and is funny.
Yeah, and it's really funny when I bring up that type of humor to somebody because they just don't know how to react, like, at all. Like,
Yeah.
I can tell you probably didn't know how to react either because it was probably, that was a crazy thing you probably heard. So.
Well, yeah, it took me by surprise, but in a good way, because I like to think of really messed up things as well.
Yeah.
And I love creating scenarios that make people confused. That's kind of like my sense of humor. and that kind of matched that. So it's like, oh, imagine how awkward the people would feel. Just the whole scenario of creating a scene of incest.
I think that would be amazing. I think
it's just ridiculous.
Like
so,
I said, I'm an acquired taste.
Well, I'll say this. I'll end with this question. So you have a dark sense of humor, but you also have a good relationship with God.
Uh-huh.
How do those two mix together?
Yeah, I see what you've done here. You put me in a bad light. So, but I mean, I sin, right? I mean, it was a sin for me even to speak like that. But you know, I mean, I mess up, but I'm still constantly trying to do better in my habits, break some bad ones. But you know, I'm prone to ask for forgiveness, repentance, all that. I'm not someone that gets discouraged when they sin and feel like God is looking away from them. You know, I know God
I think too. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm kind of like, when it comes to my faith, I don't necessarily know where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere on the spectrum of I guess I'd say I'm definitely agnostic. I definitely believe there's something there.
Yeah.
And then I guess if I had to pick a religion, I'd say Christianity, because I grew up with Christianity.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of in the discovery phase of my spirituality, I guess.
Yeah, which is totally understandable.
Yeah, so I'm fascinated by all this, and my favorite podcaster, Theo Vaughn. I don't know if you listen to him at all.
I love Theo Vaughn. I want to go on his show so bad because obviously, you see, I have like the perfect humor for Theo Vaughn.
Yeah, I think you would be a good guest. I think he would have a lot of fun.
That would be amazing.
With you. But he does a great thing, I think, in terms of where he's like he'll say something bad and then he'll be like, praise God, you know. And
yeah, he's hilarious. Let's say the most outrageous things would be like, praise God, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, and I absolutely think that's so funny. And I think, you know, now we're getting in deep, you know, philosophical territory, but I think, you know, if there is a God, I like to think that he created a dark sense of humor for a reason, you know, and it's okay to kind of make jokes and be playful, you know, and because it's fun. It brightens it makes people laugh. It brightens your day. It makes you take life not so seriously. Right. You know, I don't think it would be such a strict, you know, you can't make this joke, you need to repent, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that's kind of where I get kind of turned off by some of it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a big fan of like reading the Bible and like its interesting aspects. Like I've read about the story of Jesus hundreds of times now, But the interesting parts are actually in the Old Testament. And, I'm not going to get too much into that, but, the Bible talks about crude joking and, like, joking as in, like, sexual joking or crude joking. So, like, stuff that, like, is already, like, too inappropriate. So, like, stuff that you would already feel bad for like talking about it, but like I don't think crippling or talking about incest child is like wrong in that sense. You know what I mean?
I got you. I hear you. It's about your moral compass, things that are go against your moral compass is
because there are some pretty legalistic, strict Christians out there that will, it'll feel like they're about to, like persecute you so much because you did something wrong, and that's like the absolute opposite of what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to make you feel like you are forgiven and you are loved and God's not turning away from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that kind of messaging works better. Like I like the way Jordan Peterson approaches, talking about faith. But yeah, I think there's, Christianity and faith. It's just a layer, a unique layer added onto your kind of existence, as Jamey Carrington, the guy who lives with SMA, I think you got to have a true north, and I think you're young, and I think you're heading in the right direction. Yeah. And I think the whole emphasis on trying to stay positive and spread positivity and try to fight the negativity, all while keeping a grounded mentality, being able to make jokes about yourself, try to see things from others' perspectives. I think, it's a journey, you're on an emotional journey, and, how you think about your life today is going to change in 5 years from now. You'll look back and be like, oh, I was so naive when I was 17, Right. And, it's like when I think back to my 17-year-old version self, he was an idiot. He had a lot of fun. 17-year-old version was a lot of fun. And he was really goofy and silly. He was probably a lot happier than I am now, if I have to admit it. But that comes with age too. Life gets hard too. So it's a fucking wild ride that you have to strap into, and it's gonna throw some punches at you, man. Life will. It is. And no one gets out alive, as they say. So it's hard, man. Life is hard, and I think the tools you're using to stay positive, I think, are going to work in your favor. And I would love to incorporate some of those tools into my personal life as well. So yeah, it was cool to hear and pick your brain on that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I think with all that said, I mean, I wanted to give people a chance to follow you and check out your YouTube page. You're trying to grow that. There's a lot of this kind of positive messaging that we discussed on there. So in the episode description, I have a link to your YouTube. I have links to your Instagram and your TikTok. Is there anything else you want to promote?
No, I just want to promote being kind to yourself, be loving to yourself. That's about it.
That's good. Yeah, I feel like I could ask you probably 10 more questions, but hey, we'll save it for another time. We'll keep in touch and bounce ideas off each other. But yeah, it was fun talking to you. Next time we talk, don't hide that dark sense of humor. Don't.
I know it's more accepted right now.
All good, man. But that's it for this episode, man. Thanks again for coming on and taking the time to chat with me, man.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.